It's always tricky giving a talk right after a break of some kind, either lunch or coffee break, but appreciate you all being here and really thrilled to talk with you all today about security audits. Slightly different topic than probably a lot of the other talks here today, being very energy focused, but security is ever so important, especially in the energy sector and the infrastructure that really powers our modern world. So I'm very happy to be talking with you all today about the security audits we've been doing in collaboration with Linux Foundation Energy. I'm Amir Montazery. I'm the Managing Director of OSTIF, or the Open Source Technology Improvement Fund. We are a small but mighty nonprofit based in Chicago, Illinois, and have been working on security for quite some time. So this is just a little logo wall of some of the projects and collaborations that we have done over the years. And really it started with quite a simple idea. There were lots of efforts and initiatives that were focused on security in particular in the open source space to varying degrees of success. Some did a fantastic job raising awareness. Some did a fantastic job raising money or funds. But very few really got to the root of the problem, which is that a lot of open source software is developed. It's developed rapidly. And typically, it is not developed with security in mind, or at least security first. A lot of developers are not security experts, and just by its nature, with the way open source development works, with the modularity of open source, security isn't always a primary objective. So we said, hey, let's start this nonprofit organization with a very simple mission, which was to advance the state of security in the open source space. And I'm very proud to announce, as of this June, we did celebrate our 10-year anniversary since our founding. It's been a very fun ride these last 10 years, and lots and lots of lessons learned, and going from an idea, you know, let's do this thing, try to tackle this problem, to now an international network of trust working with many organizations and foundations around the world. Just some high-level statistics there. Lots of security vulnerabilities found and fixed, which we will talk about more as we discuss the audit process, as well as over 20,000 hours of expert security review for open source projects, and close to 200 open source projects that we have worked on at this point. So yes, very happy to celebrate 10 years, and looking forward to 10 more and continued growth for the open source ecosystem. Now, kind of the core thesis of why security audits are so valuable, impactful, and important comes down to this conclusion. There was an excellent research study done on vulnerabilities in software called 0 Days, Thousands of Nights, which took a really deep dive into the nature of vulnerabilities in software projects. And one of the key takeaways of this study is listed here, that finding vulnerabilities often requires more in-depth auditing, logic review, and source code analysis in order to go several layers deep. So I use the visual here of a mine, for example, as a way to illustrate that point. Because especially software projects that have been around for a long time or have a large user base, it's not uncommon that a lot of the surface level software, a lot of the surface level is reviewed and tested, but rarely are there opportunities to really dig deep into the software, go several layers deep, and analyze the code for vulnerabilities. So this is kind of the core thesis of why security audits are so valuable for projects, because they don't get this kind of due diligence and review, and security audits are a method to do that. So that's the what. Now the how is also very important, because throughout our 10 years, we have heard lots of different takes on security audits. We've heard people say that they've had good experiences. We've heard also from both projects and funding bodies who have funded security work that they were not smooth experiences or did not take a lot of value out of it. And based on our experience, that comes from the how. So how do we do these security audits, and what process do we follow? Now, there is another lesson from the past 10 years is that really no two audits are the same, and there really is no such thing as a kind of rubber stamp or template that you can apply to every single project. Open source projects, like the maintainers and communities that power them, are very unique, and so their needs are very unique as well. So we have found that following a process that focuses first and foremost on the needs of the project, of the communities and maintainers of these open source projects, is an approach that has consistently produced good audits and good results. So I won't go through each one of these steps here, although I probably could to fill up my time slot. But I would say what really sets us apart from maybe a more traditional commercial engagement that you might see from, let's say, a large consulting company are really steps 1, 2, and 3. So really, again, reiterating the point that it's so important to actually communicate with these open source maintainers, open source project maintainers and communities as to what their needs are, and really forming an audit and scoping the audit around those needs. Other things that really set our process apart would be baking in the idea of threat modeling into every audit, because lots of projects have not undergone any kind of threat modeling exercise with much depth. And threat modeling is an excellent way to help determine risks and threat actors and give projects a landscape or almost a playbook for understanding their threat landscape. Similarly, number 8, tooling review. Lots of times we hear, oh, audits are just kind of a point in time thing where you're just helping a project during the audit and then after the audit, nothing. But doing things like augmenting, developing, implementing security tooling like static analysis, fuzzing, improvements to CI/CD setups are tools that will continue to help a project as it changes and develops. As well as number 9 is a huge step as well, because we have also heard from different funding bodies, folks who have had audits that have not always had the best experience, where there's the perception that an audit is just a huge list of bugs that just get dumped on a project all at once, whereas our process is very conscious that this is not a good approach, and working with the project throughout the audit and collaborating on fixes, providing proofs of concept, and working with them on the fix process really makes a big difference. As well as not reporting everything all at once so as to overwhelm the project. This process is very much designed with the maintainers and communities in mind, and we definitely understand that open source maintainers are typically very busy and have a lot of things to do, so we designed this process to make this very easy for them. So the two security audits in particular that we have been collaborating with Linux Foundation Energy on this year are Possible and Everest. Both of which expressed interest in security work as we started developing our security audit program for the LF Energy projects. And something I'm going to get to a little bit later is that project or maintainer interest is very important. I use the term buy-in as well, but I think I like interest more, that they have to be interested in or ready for an exercise like this. And so these two projects showed interest and connected with us at OSTIF through our partnership with LF Energy, and we have performed security audits for both projects. And going back to the process shown here, both of these projects underwent this exact process where we first met with the maintainers, the community. I believe I participated in a few TSC meetings for, I believe it was Everest, as well as Possible, to communicate the idea, to start building that relationship and understand the needs of the project, and then using our network of open source centric security professionals and audit teams, we're able to source auditors with specific experience in what the project needs were and had the ability and skills to fulfill those needs. Jumping right into the results, so as mentioned, that digging deep and looking for issues typically does yield good results, as we have seen with the Possible audit, where 9 findings with security impact which have all been resolved by the Possible team. So big kudos, bravo to the Possible team for really taking the initiative to ingest these findings and work with the auditors on fixes and then implement these fixes. Another thing, going back to the tooling and the importance of doing things that will help the project ongoing and not just at a singular point in time. Possible was uploaded to OSS Fuzz, which is the fuzzing engine that is run by Google that is free for open source projects. And so not only were we able to get the project onto OSS Fuzz, but the auditors and audit team built custom fuzz tests to improve coverage and to focus on those high-risk areas that are determined by the threat modeling exercise. And right there it's mentioned as well that there was some custom threat modeling as well as security hardening recommendations. So again, I want to give a big shout out to the Possible team for working with us on this and fixing and remediating all of the issues that came out of the audit. For Everest, we are actually in the final stages of the audit. We're currently in the steps 9 and 10 here, where we're just finishing up collaborating on the findings and the remediation plan to fix those findings. But I can say from my observation of this audit as well, it has been a very good collaboration where I know there's been engagement from the Everest team to work with our audit team on improving the project and fulfilling the audit. So some key takeaways here. We, as I mentioned, have been around for some time, have done quite a high number of security audits for open source projects, and have consistently found that security audits are an effective tool for improving the posture and resilience for open source projects. And I use the wording here actually very mindfully, in that security audits are not a one-all, as they say, one-all be-all kind of magic bullet that will solve all of the problem, or solve all the issues that a project might face, or be just the one thing that will just suddenly make a project secure. But it is, in fact, a very effective tool for improving, for improving the resilience of projects. As mentioned earlier, participation from project maintainers is a key step to a successful engagement. This is where that buy-in participation is really important. We definitely have seen that from the LF Energy projects that we have collaborated on. It was actually really nice to catch up with our friends from the CPATH project, because that was our first security audit with the LF Energy, and just hearing that it was a good experience for them, that it was part of their roadmap to getting to a better state and improving their security posture is why we do what we do. So, and that also was a good example of strong participation from the community and the maintainers of that project. And lastly, the audit process and approach does play a big role in the outcome, because it's not necessarily the security audit itself all the time, it's also in the implementation or the execution of the audit. So some conclusion and call to action: that Linux Foundation Energy is demonstrating diligence and investing in the security of the projects that are under its umbrella with these audits. We have already done, I believe, with this one, that would be number 4, and I believe we have more planned for next year. And one reason that security audits are very valuable as well is because with the process, with publication, with publishing the audit results, and being transparent about the process, it can really serve as an artifact or as a exercise to show investment and effort put into the security of a project. And for a call to action, I recommend checking out OSTIF's body of work. As I mentioned, all of our audit reports are public and free to access. And talk with your communities, maintainers, and supporters about how engagements like these could possibly help your project. So going back to the what, and as well as the why it's important, is that really we found that digging deep and really doing the diligence to focus on the project and not just have anybody kind of look at or focus on the project, but security experts, audit teams with experience in what they are reviewing and auditing to really dig deep in a project and look for issues. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier as well is another really nice benefit of this process and method is that we have found consistently that the bugs and vulnerabilities that we're finding are whole classes of bugs. So as consistencies are found in code reviews, typically we can analyze these patterns and suggest fixes that could close entire classes of bugs, which would then eliminate any possibility of those kinds of bugs in the future. As was illustrated, or I tried to illustrate earlier with that multi-step process, this is a very, I don't want to say labor-intensive process, but there is a lot of coordination involved, which is one of the main values that a partner like OSTIF delivers, is that we handle all of that coordination, all of the communication back and forth, all of the gathering of needs and requirements, communicating with different audit teams, negotiating work packages and scope, and collaborating with the projects on kicking off the audit as well as overseeing the audit through to completion. So it's definitely a lot of effort, and there's a lot of players involved, a lot of people involved, which we do love, and and there's definitely more to thank than everyone listed here, but I just wanted to give a few thank yous. First to Linux Foundation Energy for their strong support and collaboration with us and the trust that they've placed in us to work on these projects and improve them. And of course, the projects themselves, the Everest project, the Possible project, as well as the audit teams that we work with to make these audits a reality. And with that, that is the end of what I had for the talk. I have about 9 more minutes, so if there were any particular questions or topics that are of interest, I would be happy to take this time to answer them. But I just also, going back to thank yous, also would like to thank all of you all today for coming. And I know the afternoon talks can be a bit difficult as a participant of many conferences, so I really appreciate the attendance and the attention. So thank you all very much. And yeah, now I'm happy to take questions. So the question is about the threat model. It is typically a collaboration, yeah. So that's typically done as an exercise that the auditors themselves generate and create the threat model, but it is done with the input from the project. So yeah, it's definitely a collaborative process. Specifically for Possible, I'm not sure, because we definitely have seen instances where projects have already either a preliminary threat model or at least some documentation that is consistent with what a threat model is. And part of our work would be to kind of formally document that and create the threat model, but we definitely have seen instances where projects have already taken the initiative to create one, and our work would be to augment that and to just serve as an extra set of eyes on that to see how it can be improved. Any other questions? I have time for maybe 1, 2 more questions. Yes.
You said that each audit was individual. Is it because the code base is different, or is it because of the project nature? So there's not going to be a GitHub action to actually make a preliminary audit for you guys to actually see, are we there yet?
That's a very good question, and something that does come up quite a lot. But to answer the first part of the question of the audits being individual engagements, yes, because the code bases are different, because the complexities of each project can be different, the very languages that they're written in can be different, we have found that it is best to custom scope or scope the audit around what the project needs, because for example, some projects can have very low complexity, but have a huge amount of code to actually review. Whereas some projects can have smaller lines of code, but be extremely complex, call different functions or dependencies. And so that really is where the customization piece is very important. As for something like a GitHub action or some kind of automated tool that could do some preliminary work, I think specifically with regards to security, I don't think we're there yet, because security, based on my experience, is one of those things that's very, very context heavy. And so machines, will not really be able to understand that context. And we've seen that a lot with the AI bug reports and the quote-unquote AI slop that is very prevalent now in the bug bounty space in particular. I think that's a fine example of how the human element and really the value of this work, being able to do this, digging deep, is why it is a manual process, and likely, at least not for the foreseeable future, I don't think will be replaced by some kind of automation. But then again, automated tools can help. So there's some good tools that we do run sometimes to get a basic idea of a project. One of them that was mentioned earlier could be the OpenSSF scorecard, which measures a couple metrics about a project. And then there's other ways to kind of get an idea of what a project, what their state is, or what their... Some of our audit teams are, yes, very much specialized in reverse engineering. I don't know exactly the nature of how they do that. That's a very good question, yes. Okay, okay, I could do one more. Okay, perfect, one more.
How would you handle a situation where you have dependencies that have known issues?
Yes, dependencies with known issues is a very good question, and the idea of dependencies comes up a lot as well, because from our experience, there really can always be more work to be done in an audit. We are typically, when we scope audits, because budgets tend to be very limited, we're trying to do the most that we can with what we have. And I think in a perfect world, dependency analysis, a deep dive of dependency analysis would be a great part of an audit. But dealing with dependencies with known vulnerabilities, one nice thing that an audit can do is to reinforce that, or to even remind that these problems exist. So I remember we did one security audit in particular where a known vulnerability that was already reported was found again, and it was actually found to be improperly fixed or remediated. And so going through that process again and publishing or producing an audit report that points that out spurred the action to make the fixes and to improve the project so that wouldn't be an issue anymore. Okay. Yes. I would say one of the things that has put our process apart and really augmented it is the transparency piece, because it's a great way for researchers and audit teams to demonstrate their ability and their skill, and it's a great way to, again, show the work that was done and serve as a artifact for projects that they are very much interested in or investing in security. So, okay, with that, thank you again. Thank you so much for being here. That was great. I really appreciated the questions, and I will be around the rest of today as well as tomorrow. My colleague Helen Wieste will be giving a talk tomorrow about open source as a resource. A little bit different than the security talk, but it's going to be very interesting, and I would recommend checking it out. So again, thank you, and have a great rest of your day.